Right, everybody, can everybody hear me? Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name's Billy Ottensmeyer. I'm a staff attorney at the Indiana Department of Education. It's just after 10 a.m. on Friday, August 22nd, 2025. As such, we will begin today's public hearing, which is being held pursuant to Indiana Code 4-22-2-26 for the purpose of accepting the public's comments regarding LSA document number 25-370, the board's proposed rule regarding the addition of Rule 511 IAC 6.2-12 concerning Indiana's new school accountability formula. Notice of this hearing was published on July 23rd, 2025 in the Indiana Register. Because the purpose of today's hearing is to hear from the public, the department staff will not be answering questions at this time. It's important to note that every comment we receive today, including those submitted in writing, will be provided to the board for the board's consideration. Only those planning on making a public comment on LSA 25-370 need to sign in. Those who comment will be given 5 minutes to comment. In the interest of everyone's time, a 5-minute time limit will be enforced. I'll have my phone with an alarm on it. When you hear that go off, time's up. When your time's up, you'll hear the alarm. You'll be instructed to stop. Also, I'll be asking everyone to start off their comment by stating their name and spelling it out. That way our wonderful stenographer, Margie, has an accurate record of who is making comments. If time runs out before you're finished speaking, please feel free to submit your comments via jot form, or you can email them to Ron and myself. So that's fine too. If you are making public comments today and you have written comments or written copies of a statement that you're planning on making today, please also provide us with a copy of that statement. That way we can have that on the record as well. So what I'll do is I'll call up, sort of like baseball, I'll call up who's up to bat and then who's on deck. So first up we have Justin, and next on deck, Florinda.
My name is Justin Oldmiller. I serve as the Executive Director of Stanford
Can you
Children.
spell the last name?
Yep. JUSTINOHLEMILLER. So I represent an education advocacy organization that focuses on elevating the voice of parents in historically underserved communities so they can play a stronger role in driving improvement in our public schools. I want to first begin by thanking Secretary Jenner. Ron. Yeah. Sorry. I want to begin by thanking Secretary Jenner for her leadership in this area, and then also Ron Sandlin for all of his hard work over the years to get to this moment. Also want to thank the state board members as well for their work on the rule. The framework that Ron and team have been shaping is a solid one. Due to the time constraints, I want to just focus on the high school measures. First, we're pleased to see the 9th grade on track measure included in the rule. The data is clear. High school success begins by ensuring our 9th graders reach the freshman finish line with enough credits to move on to 10th grade. When students are left to chase credits after failing courses in 9th grade, then the chances of them graduating on time diminish substantially. And 9th grade plays an even more important role in Indiana's system when we move towards a college and career-ready experience. It's dependent on young people being ready to take advantage of those opportunities, and they can't do that if they're chasing credits their junior and senior year. We strongly encourage this board, though, to keep the metric with a few minor tweaks that tie back to the research on best practices. We'd request the 9th grade on track measure move from a 4-tier scoring structure to a 3-tier scoring structure. The best on track programming sees the benchmark as binary. Students have either 1/4 their credits essentially for their diploma or they don't. So that's why we're asking the board to eliminate the category of approaching expectations. Eliminate the category of approaching expectations. Also, we believe the benchmark could be made stronger by including a GPA component or a component that is ensuring we're limiting Fs at the freshman year. As we read it, the student receiving Ds while earning more credits than needed could actually qualify as exceeding expectations. We think that should change. We also heard testimony calling for additional points for credit recovery when kiddos are off track, and we would strongly discourage the board from going in this direction as it undermines the research around ninth grade on track. Switching gears a bit, we wanted to also raise up the possibility of adding language to the rule that would begin the process of gathering data to build up to measures that would look at success post-graduation. To assess whether the diploma seals are adding value, the value we think and the value we hope for kiddos in the future. We're not saying that these measures should be added to the ADAF scoring at this time, but think that planning for assessing that impact and gathering that data now to eventually look at that in the years to come would be important to start that process now. Lastly, we've heard the idea of extra points being given to schools or districts that help students achieve multiple seals. We recommend against this idea that could allow schools to sort of pad their scores simply based on having a more privileged student body while masking achievement gaps that could remain unchanged. That's my testimony for this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also add briefly, we will not be engaging with public speakers as well. Just that doesn't mean that we're not available to meet outside of the public hearing. Feel free to reach out. But for today's hearing, we will not be engaging each speaker.
Hi, this is Florinda Maldonado, and my name is Elia James. I will be interpreting for her.
Okay. And could you spell that for us too, please?
Yes, Florinda is Florinda, and Maldonado is Maldonado.
Buenos días, miembros del Departamento de Educación. Mi nombre es Flor Maldonado y estoy aquí hoy como una madre latina orgullosa y como una miembro preocupada de nuestra comunidad en Indianápolis. Quiero agradecerles por la oportunidad de hablar. Traigo conmigo no solo mi propia experiencia, sino también la voz y el testimonio de muchas familias que casi nunca son escuchadas, pero que son profundamente impactadas por las decisiones que ustedes toman. Quiero contarles sobre mi hijo Diego. Diego entró a la preparatoria lleno de esperanza, pero en su primer año no tuvo acceso a un consejero que le ayudara a planear, guiar o siquiera entender el camino que necesitaba para tener éxito. Ese apoyo tan importante no existía. Ya como estudiante de tercer año, le pidieron recuperar clases y ponerse al corriente, solo para poder graduarse. Le dijeron que estaba en riesgo de no graduarse porque se había atrasado en el 9º grado. Nos sorprendió mucho porque no lo sabíamos y hubiéramos querido que alguien nos lo dijera antes para tener más tiempo de ayudarlo a recuperar los créditos y volverlo a poner en el camino correcto. Sentí que aunque él trabajaba duro, el sistema le falló. Nunca le dieron una oportunidad justa. Estoy agradecida por este modelo que se propone y pienso que ayudará a preparar mejor a los estudiantes porque se enfoca en la preparación para la preparatoria, al añadir una medida de estar en buen camino en 9º grado. Apoyo la medida de 9º grado en buen camino, pero creo que debe ser más fuerte. Las escuelas no deberían recibir crédito por estudiantes que solo están cerca de cumplir las expectativas. Mi hijo ha estado muy estresado porque no se dio cuenta de lo atrasado que estaba hasta que casi era demasiado tarde. Esta medida tiene que ser muy clara a los estudiantes. Están en corriente con sus créditos o no lo están. Las familias necesitamos esa claridad. Gracias.
Good morning, members of the Department of Education. My name is Flor Maldonado, and I am here today as a proud Latina mother and a concerned member of our Indianapolis community. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I carry with me not only my own experience, but also the voice and testimony of so many families who are often unheard, yet deeply impacted by the decisions you make. Let me tell you about my son, Diego. Diego entered high school full of hope, but as a freshman, he didn't have access to a guidance counselor to help him plan, guide, or even understand the path that he needed to succeed. That critical support was missing. As a junior, he was asked to make up classes and catch up just to be able to graduate. He was told that he was at risk of not graduating because he had gotten off track in the 9th grade. We were shocked because we did not know and wish that someone would have told us sooner and given us more time to make the credits up and get him back on track. I felt that while he was working hard, the system failed him. He was never given a fair chance. I am grateful for this model being proposed and think it will help better prepare students because it focuses on high school readiness by adding 9th grade on track, a 9th grade on track measure. I support adding the 9th grade on track measure, but I think it needs to be stronger. Schools shouldn't get a credit for students who are approaching expectations. My son has been so stressed because he didn't realize just how far behind he was until it was almost too late. This measure should be very clear. Either students are on track with their credits or they're not. Families need that clarity. Diego is not alone. Too many Latino students are quietly falling behind, not because they're not smart, but because they aren't, not because they aren't trying, but because the structures that are supposed to support them simply don't. I'm here tonight to ask you to be bold, to be fair, and to be just. We want transparency. We want strong and equal accountability for every school. And we want every child, no matter their background, their zip code, or their language spoken at home, to have a real opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Make a note that it was provided in Spanish. And
Next up, we have Carol Craig, and on deck is Rachel Hathaway.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Carol Craig, C-R-A-I-G. And this morning, I'm representing the Greater Indianapolis NAACP. Our president, Crystal Ratcliffe, was not able to be here this morning, and we will be forwarding a copy. I don't have a copy for you today, but we will be forwarding one to you. Dear members of the Indiana State Board of Education, on behalf of the Greater Indianapolis NAACP, we write to commend the Indiana Department of Education's effort to design an accountability system that aspires to reflect the full range of skills, knowledge, and values needed for students to thrive. We recognize the intent behind Indiana's proposed future accountability model and appreciate the vision of preparing students not only for tests, but for lifelong success. However, as advocates for justice in education, we urge the board to ensure that the model does not unintentionally penalize historically marginalized populations or schools that have faced systemic underinvestment. Research and experience show that accountability models, if not designed with justice at the forefront, can deepen existing disparities and stigmatize the very students and communities they intend to uplift. And I want to say I appreciate the presentation just before me and what she is asking for. To that end, we respectively recommend the following adaptations. Number one, opportunity to learn and resource justice indicators. These would include such things as incorporating measures of access to qualified teachers, advanced coursework, extracurricular activities, and technology. Schools should not be penalized for inequities beyond their control, but instead supported where opportunity gaps exist. Second, growth and flexible pathways. In addition to proficiency, emphasize student growth. Recognize multiple pathways to readiness, include work-based learning, apprenticeships, and community service, so that success is not limited to test-based metrics. And third, reconsideration of the A through F grading. Now, we recognize that statute requires the use of A through F grading. However, a single letter grade oversimplifies complex school realities and disproportionately harms high poverty and racial diverse schools. If A through F ratings remain, they should be paired with resource commitments and improvement supports rather than punitive measures. Fourth, community and justice-centered input. Establish local community councils to ensure that marginalized families and community stakeholders meaningfully shape accountability practices. Annual equity reviews should assess whether the system is closing or widening gaps. Fifth, data transparency and disaggregation. Report outcomes by race, income, language status, disability, foster, and homeless status. Adopt equity guardrails to ensure that subgroup performance cannot be masked by overall averages. And six, supports over sanctions. Link accountability results to state-provided supports, such as tutoring, wraparound services, extended learning opportunities, and trauma-informed practices, so that schools most in need receive investment rather than punishment. The Greater Indianapolis NAACP firmly believes that accountability should be about partnership, growth, and justice, not labels and penalties. By strengthening Indiana's model with these justice-driven adaptations, the board can lead the nation in developing an accountability system that truly reflects the promise of every student, especially those who have been historically underserved. We thank you for your commitment to Indiana's students, and we urge you to center justice in the final design of this model. We look forward to continuing the dialogue and working together toward an accountability system that uplifts all Hoosier children. And it will be signed by our president, Crystal Ratcliffe. And with that, we will have an executive summary. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Now we have Rachel, and on deck is Will Young.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Rachel Hathaway. I'm the Executive Director for Teach Plus Indiana. Excited to speak today. I want to first acknowledge.
Could you spell your name real quick?
Oh,
too,
yeah,
please?
sorry. I knew, I was like, oh, I'll remember. I didn't remember. Rachel Hathaway, RACHEL, HATHAWAY. First, I want to acknowledge the effort and thoughtfulness that the department has put into this framework. I know Ron's been working on it for quite a long time. And moving toward beyond test scores to include science, social studies, attendance, advanced coursework, and diploma seals is a really important step. These measures better reflect the full range of skills students, Indiana students need, and providing a simple summative rating alongside a more detailed reporting can help families quickly understand school performance while still allowing deep school performance and student and school performance while still allowing the deep exploration via the GPS or whatever additional platforms we're going to bring in, I assume. At the same time, I do want to lift up a couple things that I think we can continue to bring in and make this the framework even stronger. First, while the subgroup performance is reported, it's not currently incorporated into the rating in a way that I think holds schools accountable for actually closing gaps. Without meaningful subgroup accountability, we risk obscuring inequities that persist for English learners, students with disabilities, and historically underserved populations. Similarly, the use of a complex point system makes it difficult for educators and families to understand how individual measures contribute to a school's rating. Transparency is going to be essential if accountability is to drive trust and improvement. And so a question that actually came from some of our teachers was that, will parents have full transparency into their individual students' scores and how that contributes to the overall school's score? And so what platform would that look like? Additionally, the blending of growth and proficiency in the definition of above expectation risks confusing two distinct concepts. Students should be recognized both for the progress they make and for whether they have met grade level standards. But those measures need to remain clear and separate. In addition, the reliance on student growth percentiles, a normative measure, does not allow schools to know in advance what growth targets will be, making it hard to use data as a tool for improvement, which is what we're trying to do, set our teachers up, set our schools up for success in supporting students. To that end, the system identifies performance, but it hasn't yet established a clear pathway for identifying and supporting those schools in greatest need. And accountability is most effective when it's paired with targeted resources, interventions, and professional development to help schools improve. And to that end, this framework is a significant shift, right? And so being really thoughtful, and not that we back away from it, but being really thoughtful about the change management process and building up sufficient infrastructure and clear communication for teachers, families, districts across the board, everyone, students, that will be necessary to ensure schools can implement effectively. Investments in data systems, training, and technical support must accompany any changes to the accountability policy. And then finally, we urge continued dialogue about how this will impact teacher evaluation, because currently we've kind of walked away from an objective measure, and so our belief is that teachers deserve a fair, transparent system that recognizes their impact while also accounting for the many factors that shape student outcomes. And this discussion has not fully been explored, and so I invite us to take this as an opportunity to continue down that path of what will the implications of the new accountability framework, what will that mean for teacher performance and teacher evaluation. I wanted to raise a couple just logistical questions that also came. There was a question about transient populations and whether points will follow students and how that will impact the performance of a school that student is either exiting or that they are entering. And so again, my hope is that we can develop a maybe data system that can kind of track that more effectively. And then again, bringing forward that special or the special populations or subgroups. Will they have different weights for their pointage, given that they have different needs than a general population student? Finally, and I know I said finally before, but this is my second finally, when we just actually put out a report called Measuring What Matters, and we have encouraged the state to consider, in addition to the actual what's going into the grade, what are some additional metrics that should be made public so that stakeholders can really understand the full scope of the school. And that could include things like, I've got too many papers, what partnerships they have in the community, per pupil spending, facilities, what it looks like, student classroom sizes, kind of gives that picture but doesn't necessarily hold the school accountable to those realities, because those are just, again, more about the culture and climate of the school as a parent is considering where they want to send their student. And so, in conclusion, we're recommending that the department really encourage them to consider making it more comprehensive via strengthening equity, simplifying transparency, aligning accountability with meaningful supports, and then carefully managing that implementation as we move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not going to use it. I'll send them to him. These are ugly.
Next up, Will Young.
Will left.
All right. Will's not here, so Stacy Kurtelak,
Rensselaer.
and on deck, Carol Parker.
All right. Good morning. Stacy is S-T-A-C-Y, Kurtelak, K-U-R-D-E-L-A-K. And Rensselaer Schools is R-E-N-S-S-E-L-A-E-R. Schools. I'm speaking today to support the use of student growth and not just proficiency, as has really been the focus in the past. For 30 years, I have taught students with mild, moderate, and severe disabilities. And I feel like we are finally recognizing the importance of my students' growth, because proficiency at grade level has never been the goal for my students or for their families. Because every other day of the year, we recognize these are students with disabilities that are not at proficient levels, and then they are continually penalized for something that is beyond their control. So we thank you for looking at growth. And instead of one more time, our children and our families are treated as failures of proficiency, they are going to be recognized for the growth that they have worked so hard to attain. Question that we have from the special ed world is, a lot of us teach at schools that bring many other school corporations in. And we are tasked with having all those supports and programs in place. And how is that going to be reflected in our school grade or in the homeschool's grade? So just side question to note there. But again, we do appreciate the look at growth and that our students matter in our schools and they're an integral part of our community. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Carol Parker. C-A-R-O-L, Parker. Okay. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is, again, Carol Parker, and I'm a retired teacher, science, middle school, and a CASA worker. And I'm here because one of the things that we're missing in all this evaluation is the schools. It's a school evaluation. And schools need to be held accountable for the safety and the orderliness in the schools. No matter what teachers have planned, how great this lesson is as a science teacher, if that class isn't in order, if you're not having support, you're not accomplishing anything and the students are not learning. So let's not build houses on sand in our education here in Indiana. The proposed model simply accounts for student outcomes. That's what it is. But the lack of discipline and order in our classrooms diminishes the students' academic progress. In order to hold our schools accountable for providing an environment conducive for learning, the schools must be assessed in person. School administrators are currently responsible for evaluating their own school effectiveness. The Department of Education should play an active role, not that they can get into the schools, but they can designate people in the community, and they can be creative about it. The proposed model for Indiana school accountability, since it has omitted an evaluation of schools, the responsibilities to facilitate student progress, please consider including these criteria for your practices. The facility, is it clean? Is the building secure? Are the doors locked? I went to my school's daughter, because I am a teacher, to help her get all her science equipment together in 2nd grade. The floors were filthy, the walls peeled. She didn't have any tack board to hang all of her new models up. I went out and bought them. That's incorrigible, and the only way for the department to know that's going on is to be in the schools. The environment, is work displayed? Do you have directive, rules, safety? This was done by the Department of Education, and I just want to read to you Indiana School Employee Injury Report. The public schools regarding school employees who were physically injured while on the job by a student at the school, over 3,000 in Indiana in 1 year. I'll leave this for you for review. It was a state mandate. Somebody took the time to figure that out. That's a problem. So I'm asking that our DOE please make sure that the student behavior, you can look and see if kids are following direction. Is the staff engaged? Is the staff coming to school? Do they have good attendance? I'm a teacher. We should have good attendance. What about, why would a kid come if we don't? Positive attitudes. Administrators, are the goals clear? Are the teachers telling you that they're given the tools to teach? Ask them. Do we have a whistleblower for teachers system set up with the DOE? If I'm a teacher, I'm not telling. I'm not losing my job. I vested a lot of time in it. And make sure that we're thinking about those things. Schools should be evaluated by a team designated by DOE. School administrators could participate in the creation of the rubrics for the best school practices. The Department of Education in Indiana should evaluate the learning environment of our children based on those practices. I attended a webinar when I ran for school board in my town in Highland, Indiana, and I was told by the state school board that school board members were not to go in school. You hire people to do that. That's nonsense. School board members, unannounced, should have every right to stand up and represent their community and schools, and I want this Department of Education to make that clear to our school board association. Finally, the schools that are implementing the best practices for our students and progress will have a summary, if you do this, of specific areas to address for improvement. That's the point of evaluating in the first place. At least when I did it as a teacher, it was not to be punitive or to diss kids, but to tell them what they could do to improve their outcomes. Student test scores and careers are important, but schools need input, and they need help implementing it. I've also included our state laws that relate to subjects. Code 3544-1, 2-3. What is lying? Another, what is theft? Children can commit a delinquent act if before becoming 18, they habitually disobey their parents. Are parents made aware of this and what they can do without it? So I'm also including measures for schools that are struggling to work with their kids, where they can get those resources, specific ones. And I would ask that we post these Indiana codes in our schools and teach kids the laws, the basic laws that are important to a civil society. And I thank you for your time. I'll leave this. I had a little more, but
Thank
you guys,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I don't have the Jeopardy music to play right now, but that's what would be playing, just in your minds. Licensing issues and all, given that this is being streamed live. That was Carol. So, is it Nan? Yep. You're next. You're up, and then Austin is on deck.
Nan, N-A-N, Polk, P-O-L-K. I'm on the school board in Newcastle. I'm actually reading a statement that was put together by our curriculum director, Sherry Burgum. In June 2025, the state unveiled a revamped point-based accountability model intended to move away from reliance on test scores alone. While the model attempts to capture a broader range of indicators, including academic proficiency, attendance, work-based learning, diploma seals, soft skills, and post-secondary readiness, it introduces significant challenges, inequities, and unfunded mandates for schools. Academic proficiency remains central, but this measure continues to carry an inherited zip code bias, as test outcomes often reflect demographics and community resources more than instructional quality. Attendance is another problematic metric because excused, unexcused, and exempt absences are still defined at the local level. Attendance data will never be measured equitably. Many corporations do not follow current legislation, leaving those who comply at a disadvantage. Compounding this inequity, while the state does not treat excused absences as punitive for parents, they remain punitive for schools. counting against the 94% mandate and accountability model. Work-based learning is a valuable initiative, but the availability of opportunities is not evenly distributed. Not all corporation can meet students' needs, and regions will be forced into competition for limited community partners. Business and industry partners will be in the position of deciding which districts to support, leaving rural and high-poverty areas behind. Diploma seals and pathways offer exciting new graduation options. However, holding schools accountable for the percent of students who select one pathway over another reintroduces zip code bias, as access and student choice are influenced by factors outside of a school's control. The inclusion of soft skills raises an additional concern: measurement. These skills are vital for life success, but are inherently subjective, difficult to assess consistently, and easily influenced by cultural or socioeconomic differences. Post-secondary readiness aligns to the state GPS framework, is another ambitious goal. Schools will be measured through multiple checkpoints at grades 3, 4 through 8, 10, and 12, with points tied to mastery, attendance, progression, and credentials. However, the transiency of students, a factor beyond local control, will skew results and once again exacerbate a zip code bias. When paired with recent funding legislation, this A through F system will function less as an accountability model and more as a barrier to public school. Schools are expected to meet new demands around staffing, curriculum, and credentialing, yet the resources to meet these expectations remain unfunded. The expanded system does recognize more than high-stakes testing, but consistency has been lacking, with constant shifts in assessment format and vendors over the last decade, resulting in apples to oranges each year. If the domains are to be weighted fairly, schools should be acknowledged for progress, work ethic, and readiness beyond testing scores. However, the weighting of each domain will be critical. The opportunity to learn credit for student growth, even when proficiency has not yet been reached, is a promising shift. However, concern remains that growth could be overshadowed by other factors, such as attendance and work-based learning, elements disproportionately influenced by context and opportunity. It is still unclear how underperforming schools will be treated in the new model. Will D and F schools face interventions as in the past? Lawmakers are still reviewing statutes. Furthermore, there is no common platform for data collection, definitions, or monitoring. Without statewide consistency, accountability will lack fairness and credibility. This raises a critical question: how will data be tracked and verified? What role will local control truly play if checkpoint assessments, mandated pacing guides, and tied funding legislation continues to move us toward universal state oversight? While the proposed A through F system is frameworked as a more holistic and equitable, in practice, it introduces inequities and fails to address long-standing biases. Without consistent assessments, clear definitions, equitable access to work-based learning and pathways, and adequate funding, schools will remain burdened by expectations that they cannot fully meet. Instead of strengthening public education, the model risks widening gaps and undermining trust and accountability. I really appreciate being able to offer this. This process is very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming down, coming over. And Dr. Spangelberg's next.
And then on deck is Dr. Spangelberg.
Hi, I'm Austin Hauser, AUSTINHAUSER. I currently serve as a network level administrator for Herring Classical Schools. It's a premier charter school network in downtown Indianapolis. In my current role, I help guide our schools through multiple realms of accountability, including federal DOE, Indiana Department of Education, Mayor's Office, numerous grant programs to keep our school running, different things like that. When we have conversations around accountability, when we have conversations around accountability, they're often driven by a common question: what do we need to do to perform our best on this accountability measure while not sacrificing what we know is best for our students? I'm here to speak on one specific detail that would force our high schools to make a very difficult decision that would ultimately, in our minds, be detrimental to our students or continue to do what's best for our students and receive a lower accountability grade. Under the current proposal, a 10th grade student can earn a success factor point by passing the bio ECA. However, students at Heron and Heron Riverside High Schools take biology in 11th grade, meaning they would not have the opportunity to pass the bio ECA before the 10th grade evaluation. The next obvious question is, why do Heron students take biology in 11th grade? A little bit of a backstory from me. Prior to moving into administration, I was a physics teacher. Heron Classical Schools employs a physics first science model, which in fact is the reason why I decided to begin my career at Heron and teaching at Heron High School. In this model, the order in which science courses are taught is reversed from a traditional sequence. High school students take physics first, then chemistry, and then biology. I first heard of this model when I was in my transition to teaching program. When discussing high school science models, I asked why most schools traditionally taught biology first. And I distinctly remember my program director, a former biology teacher. She shrugged and said, because it's alphabetical. She was mostly joking in that. But the best serious answer that I've been able to deduce since then is that because biology is the only specific science course included in graduation requirements in Indiana. So schools started teaching it to get that requirement out of the way or to give students more chances to pass the course. The physics first model was developed as a research-driven alternative, and I could go on for a while explaining why physics first is best. As a physics teacher myself, I strongly believe in that model. But I'm not here to debate the best high school science curricular model. I'm here to ask that the accountability system not limit the flexibility of a school to decide the science curricular model that is best for their students. The department has typically done an excellent job of allowing students to make local decisions that are in the best interest of their students and to try innovative approaches to best serve students, such as physics first science. I understand the desire to include the bio ECA as in the accountability model. A suggested adjustment to the current proposed model that would allow for this flexibility would be to move biology ECA student success factor to the 12th grade metric instead of the 10th grade. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. Good to see you too.
Yeah. Hey, Michaela.
Good morning. My name is Michaela Spangenberg, Dr. Michaela Spangenberg. I am a facility.
And if you could, sorry, just wait till that beep, and also just spell your name real quick. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. First name is Michaela. Last name is Spangenburg.
Thank you.
I'm very encouraged to hear so many of the comments that have been already shared today from other concerned Hoosiers regarding the proposed system, because I think that we're all coming to a common understanding of what the problems are, not just with what's being proposed, but our entire approach in the past. Because we have to ask ourselves first, why are we measuring accountability? And does our proposed approach fall in line with that? And does overall the entire trajectory in the past of how we've done these things actually fulfill that purpose? Because a huge part of it, of course, is to make sure our kids are getting a quality education. But that's also a decision that rests essentially with parents and the ability for parents to make informed decisions. An A to F grade model does not do that. An A to F grade model does not tell you anything about the school. And many parents have all different types of concerns about the schools, and different values, different ideas of what's important for their kids, whether it's extracurricular activities, different languages that are offered, how much time is spent in workforce settings versus in classroom settings. And some of those are not better or worse than the other, they're just different. And so if a parent is looking at the state website or at a dashboard that's shared, through the school website that's, has this kind of system, they need to know at a glance, okay, what does this school offer my child? Is this school a good fit for my child? And I think that's especially true when we're talking about our exceptional learners, and particularly our kids with disabilities. Somebody already said this, but related to a different topic, there are schools that think that if they comply with the law, they're at a disadvantage because the state's not looking at, are you doing your IEPs? Are the kids getting the services they need? Is there in-school therapy services, case management, behavioral support? Even though those are the things that correlate to academic success, what we end up looking at is testing scores. And how are we deriving the baseline for what's acceptable even there? Because if our best scores are like, in my area, we have like our best, I think, math score in my whole county was like 40 something. So what's the baseline? I saw with the attendance metric, we have like a 94% like threshold or something. I haven't seen a school that has a 94% anything when it comes to attendance. And I'm not just even talking about in my area. I talk to parents from all other different counties. I talk to parents from all other different parts of the state. When we had our previous model, that model was not used as a tool to identify ways to help schools. That tool was used as a weapon to punish schools. And some schools were given preferential treatment, and some schools were given exactly the opposite. And there are, you know, I think somebody else already alluded to this already, there are a lot of teachers in this state, a lot of educators, building administrators, even school board members, and I applaud everybody who came here today, given this, who, given the current climate of things, it feels like education's under attack. Like, if you don't have friends in this building, friends in the other building, if you don't feel connected to the political process, you're at a disadvantage. But what does that have to do with educating our kids? You shouldn't have to be politically connected to feel like you can reach out and ask a question or get clarification. You shouldn't have to be afraid of being punished, because it's not just also how we measure, what do we do with it? Other than, this is a bad school, here's an F grade. This is a great school, allegedly, here's an A grade. What are we doing to collect both qualitative and quantitative data to share with parents about what that experience will be like for their students so they can make informed decisions? But also, how do we get schools that are struggling or having challenges to a level where they're doing better? Because some of those challenges, maybe they're unique to certain types of schools, or maybe they're somehow connected to things we're struggling with as an entire state, but because we don't go back in for that qualitative data, when we see those numbers, we're missing the picture. And because people are afraid to talk because of all of that, we're also missing that part of the picture too. And part of this too also has to do with engagement. How parents engage with the schools, how students engage with the schools, but also how the state then engages back and what that relationship is. Because we shouldn't have some model of something like Big Brother happening or people feeling like that's what's happening. We shouldn't have people terrified that their schools are going to be taken over again or something terrible is going to happen. There should be a way that the state can be a partner, and the state can be a partner because it has a larger scope of, of data from all over the state, and it's able to see the patterns, understand the patterns, get the other data that supports that, and then sets reasonable baselines, sets reasonable thresholds, continues to assess over time. We have to use, for instance, achievement is something other than just a way, achievement and growth intelligently, and we have to use growth as something other than just a way to not look at achievement. We have to use that to start to develop an understanding of trends and to provide a warning system. There are some parts of the state that are very good with this type of thing when it comes to data, kind of like a warning system for, okay, we've collected a lot of data, when something happens that's unusual and unexpected outside that threshold of like tolerance, okay, now we know something might be wrong. Now we're going to come back and we're going to have a conversation and see how can we provide that support. And maybe other schools are having that problem too. And maybe it's not a question of money, are we throwing money at things? It's a question of how are we rethinking the systems? How are we recalibrating ourselves to the purpose of serving our students and serving their future, because they are our future and they are the only future we ever going to have. And this is our one chance to not mess that up. And I think part of that too, we have to stop demonizing our teachers, demonizing our students. We have to start coming into a position in which we really are all going in the same direction, and where there's not some kind of political motivation, there's nothing ideological. It's about data. It's about wanting to help kids. To get into a more specific kind of solution here, if we're not doing an A to F model, we can have a domain-focused model, right? We can have different domains identified. We can get input on what parents want from this too. That's vitally important. Like, that has to do with the academics, that has to do with extracurricular sports, that has to do with teacher satisfaction, teacher retention. All of the things that we see in research contribute to quality education. And we can do like the kind of temperature thermometer models. We can do 0 to 10 type things. We can do domains on little temperature looking thermometers, and then an overall kind of horizontal kind of score, so that a parent can look at it and of course be able to click and get more information and see what this data means and make an informed decision, because that's the parent's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak that is not already spoken? All right, in that case, we will conclude the public hearing. If you have additional written comments or anything that you'd like to submit, feel free to, you can email Ron or I, or you can submit them via the JOT form. That's still open. But the deadline to submit for the first public comment period is today. So just get those to us by like 6, 7 o'clock, or as long as you email to us.
Get them by Monday.
Midnight, yeah, by Monday, yeah. But I think the JOT form does close at like midnight or something. JOT, J-O-T. But you can email Ron or I, and we're not gonna not look at them if we get them on Saturday. So.
Adjourned.
Adjourned.
Thank you very much.